human.
Ben Leber is back with us for his regular Monday late afternoon, early evening appearance brought to you by Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. I don't know who credited you with this, but somebody wrote this online, I think, that you had run into Mark Craig, or Mark Craig had run into you before the game, and you just said the Vikings will win the game if we do not turn the ball over. To my knowledge, we did not turn the ball over, and to my knowledge, I do believe the Vikings won the ball game.
Yeah, he and I were walking into the stadium about the same time, and we did have that conversation. It's like, oh man, hey Mark, what do you think, man? Like, what do you think's going to happen today? And we're just kind of like shooting the breeze, and I said, well, let's be honest here. I mean, we have a good team. If we just don't turn the ball over, then we're going to have a great chance to win this game. I mean, I hate to break it down to be that simple, but if McCarthy can play clean and make clean decisions, then we know the way our defense has been playing the last couple of weeks that we should win this game, and it kind of did come down to that.
Did the head coach make it easier for him to play clean with what he called and the approach he took?
Well, it seemed like that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Nacho?
I lost you. I lost you
for a second. Yeah,
you're so sorry.
That's all right. You're on the. I figured it was one of those either phones like connecting or disconnecting to the car. That kind of a bit. That kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're back on.
You're good at this.
Well, yeah. I've been in that spot. That's the problem.
So. It's kind of hard to know, if they really, what the scheme wise, like, did they cut down some routes? Did they, not attack some of these coverages the way they normally do? Did they take the plays from 50 down to 20? Not really sure. All I know is we ran the ball with commitment and efficiency, the way that we were all hoping that we'd see throughout the whole season. We didn't just abandon the run game after a couple of failed attempts, because there was, you look back at the run chart, there were some runs there that were 0, 1, 1, a negative play early in this game, and then we kind of would pop one for 6 or 7. So I think that was a major, major contributing factor. And then next thing you know, we're in second and manageable and third manageable. So with all that being said, even if you don't cut down the said playbook and simplify things, it's a lot easier to convert those first downs when you're more successful in first. So however they got the message across, however they changed the scheme, it worked. And I think that should be the formula for the rest of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree that that's the question. Can the head coach stick with that? Defensively, I want to talk a little bit about the defense too. This looked to me very much like a game in which Washington looked very poorly prepared for or unable to react to the B-flow, pressure approach. I mean, there were this was before Daniels got hurt or left the game, where he didn't really have much of. I mean, there were people coming, unblocked, and I don't know how much responsibility is supposed to be on the quarterback there to shift assignments. But it didn't even, to me, it looked like they had no idea what to do with the Vikings' pressure.
Well, it's fascinating that I feel like this is the way it's been the last, let's say, 3 weeks. We go back to that Seattle game, last week, and I was kind of shocked about how much pressure, free rushers, single blocks that we had, missed blocks, missed counts. And I'm like, is B-Flow all of a sudden changing the angles and the guys that are blitzing? It doesn't really look like it to me, but it does seem to be confusing for these offensive coordinators that have a whole week to prepare. And then I think what you're kind of alluding to in this last game, if I'm just going to guess right, is the end of the first half. Harrison Smith was virtually unblocked on 3 of the 4 blitzes coming off the edge.
Yeah.
And they weren't disguising anything.
No.
He was at the line of scrimmage. He was in a sprinter stance. It was like, hey, we know that you're blitzing. We're going to go ahead and just leave you free, and we need to block the interior. But the choices that Jaden was making was like, well, that's not even an outlet. That's not even. It seemed like a hot throw. It just seemed like, yeah, we're gonna intentionally leave you uncounted, but then we're gonna throw at you. Like I didn't understand the logic. I didn't understand the confusion, but obviously I like the confusion and I like what we're doing on defense.
It appeared to me that the Commanders did not look that interested as the game went on. They looked about as checked out as I've seen. They had obviously the one nice drive early, and then they decided to throw 3 straight times from the 2, a la the old KOC. But as the game was going on there, and then I think as Daniels, got hurt and went to the blue tent, they did not look to me like they were interested in being there at all.
I really didn't get that feeling. I heard some people on social media saying like, well, we shouldn't be so happy with ourselves. That was a team very clearly that didn't want to be here, and they've given up on the season. And, I have to say that in my experience, unfortunately being in that situation a few times where you're not playing for much at the end of the season, with 5 games left to go in the season, that's not the time when you start shutting things down. They brought back their quarterback that's been often injured throughout the season. I feel like, why wouldn't you go out there and play hard for your franchise quarterback? He would bring some juice, I think, to the team. Their head coach took over defensive play calling duties the 2 weeks prior, and everybody's talking about how great of a play caller Dan Quinn is. And this is the defense that we want to see. And, I think it was, to me, like they had stuff to play for. I mean, it wasn't like, hey, we're shutting this thing down. We've got 2 games to go in the season, and we don't want to be here. We don't want to get hurt. I did not get that impression. And all the things that I just mentioned, like, it gives me the reason why they should go out there with a lot of motivation and play hard. And I think they did. I just think that we handled our business. And then once we got late in the game and they realized this thing's out of hand, and especially after Daniels got hurt again, I think that's really when the wind came out of their sails.
This is from 612 guy. Leber made a comment this morning on the Power Trip about KOC not giving the game ball to Oliver, who caught 2 TDs instead of giving it to JJ. Do you think it's because KOC is trying to cover his bases and elevate his QB and create some buy-in?
No, I don't think so. I don't think there was. I'm not even sure it was, a mistake. I mean, I'm not trying to say it was like a mistake or whatever.
You're just commenting on it.
Watching that video, I'm like, oh, well, if JJ's going to get one and Jonathan Allen's going to get one and Van Ginkel's going to get one for, making a splashy play, I'm like, well, there's a guy on the offensive side of the ball that had 2 touchdowns on 2 catches. Like, he should at least get a game ball, right? So, I don't know. Maybe they gave him a game ball in team meeting today.
Are you going to give him the Hop Splash Player of the Game award? Is that maybe your way of handling this situation internally?
I'm actually not. I'm going to give it to the guy, one of the guys I just mentioned, Andrew Van Ginkel. I'm going to give the award to him. And again, it is, it's partly for just being a smart football player and making a great play, a play that he continues to make every, it just seems like every 5 or 6 games. I know that's an exaggeration, but it seems like he's making the play all the time. But so much goes into his game that people don't realize. Like that smart, sharp, cerebral game awareness that he has on that particular play. When you watch him play, he plays like that all the time. I mean, there are little things when I went back and watched this film that he will, he'll be on the edge, and if he feels maybe a motion coming from the outside, like he'll shift his weight and he'll look now for a threat that was coming from the outside, even if it is or isn't. But like, there's always an awareness. Every single play, he's thinking about how can the offense attack me and what can I do to counter that, whether it's the run game, taking on pullers, whether it's, somebody trying to reach him where he wasn't expecting. I just really appreciate the headiness of which he plays, and he makes a lot of plays and makes life easier for our defense because he does study tape and he is situationally aware. So that's the reason, I want to give him this award this week.
So again, the ball did not go much to Justin Jefferson. He said all the right things. All I'm interested in is winning. What did you see? I mean, did you see coverages as usual, maybe even more so, centering on him, on Jefferson so much that there really weren't that many opportunities to get to him? And if that's the case, what's the answer here? Because obviously he's not the first great receiver to get extra attention, and you have to eventually, in fact, I would say the rest of this season, you're trying to win, but you're also trying to make sure he gets more involved in what you do because he's so important to the present and the future. So what's the answer there?
Well, I do think that part of his route tree and the way that we've used him in the past couple of years is deeper routes. They are coming off of complementary routes to suck up a defender. He's going to run a deep over across the field into the void or a deep dig. I do feel like he's one of those players that does make a lot of plays between the hashes, and it's deeper down the field. And unfortunately, that's just not part of the game that I think, if we want to talk about paring down and simplifying things and, going with a quicker read, I do feel like a lot of Jets' involvement in the offense is all those things. And, there are some intentional ways. We had the play action deep shot down the field. That's a way to basically get him in a single coverage. He had a couple throws on the outside where some out cutting routes where now you just have to basically throw it to the boundary and throw it to the sideline and away from the defenders, which is, again, a safer throw. So I do think we are seeing, even though yesterday's game was, it was great and it was well executed, the ball was coming out quicker. And so I just think that, Justin, unfortunately, he was not involved in that way. And we do have to find him, in those situations where maybe he's getting some of those Addison type of throws, some shorter things that can get him open. Because I'm sure the preach all week was, don't make the forced throw into coverage if you're unsure. And what we do know that Justin Jefferson is double covered a lot. He does face a lot of bracket stuff. This was a defense yesterday that was playing a lot of zone coverage. They actually pared down their man coverage when Dan Quinn took over the play calling duties, and they went a lot more zone. And I just think that some of those cleaner reads are more in man coverages for Justin Jefferson and not in these kind of cloudy zones where safeties are roaming around and you're not sure where they're going to end up. That's not the safe throw. Don't throw into traffic, make the safe throw, and that just wasn't a part of the game plan yesterday for Justin.
Yeah, I thought that's true. And, there's got to be eventually kind of a way to thread the needle. But I think, to me, what I saw from McCarthy was, and again, I don't know how much this has to do with play calls or just him feeling more protected or him feeling a little bit calmer. Everything seemed quick. Almost. I felt like I wasn't doing the stopwatch to how long he had the ball in his hands, but for most of the time he was, especially most of those first two drives, the ball was gone quick. Whatever the play called for or whatever he saw, he got it there very quickly.
Yeah, and I would even say, and maybe you've already talked about this on your show, but the other hidden part of his game yesterday was just his footwork and his pocket presence.
Yep.
I know a lot of people, because the big question mark has been accuracy, it's been processing, it's been decision making. But, when we did call for longer routes, the pocket did collapse. The Commanders were getting pressure on him. We did have some opportunities, I thought, to get some deeper shots, to get maybe Justin Jefferson open on one of those deep overs or something. But it didn't work out for that particular play. In the way that he was able to scramble around, extend plays, even use his legs to pick up a first down, I thought that was huge. I mean, the way that he climbed out of the back of the end zone even was a terrific play that, again, is not going to show up in the stat book. But, man, he showed a lot of poise, a sense of urgency without a sense of panic. And I think that's a big step forward. 100%.
Ben Leber, kind enough to join us. Nacho Leber. Brought to you by the Sierra Nevada Brewing Company. So we've established the Hop Splash player of the game. We've talked a little bit about defense, a little bit about offense. Let's talk a little bit also about the running game because, again, it looked to me like it was effective for most of the time and also helped them stay away from, 3rd and 14s or 3rd and 15s. And we had, I don't know how many penalties we had. It didn't feel like offensively we had very many penalties as well or at all. But the running game, a lot of people think I'm on one track that you got to run forever. I don't even think you have to run forever. But I do think, especially as he gets his legs under him, the quarterback, that anything that can help him do that, I think that's true of quarterbacks more experienced and accomplished than he. Going all the way back to Aaron Rodgers, frankly, with the Packers, that it just brings a certain sanity to the situation. It takes away, in many cases, I think, having to face, like I said, third and very long. And you got running backs, especially, I thought, well, both of them really, but especially Jones yesterday, who can still do something with the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go back to the first down success that we had. We had 25 first down plays, 4.7 yards per play in first half, nearly 6 yards a play in the second half on first down. And they weren't all runs. I mean, I think 19 runs to 6 passes on first down. We scored 2 touchdowns passing the ball on first down. And I think to what you're saying, to support what you're saying, is that, it doesn't not every run has to be successful in that, that went for 6, 7, 8 yards. But the idea that you're committing to the run all of a sudden now does open up opportunities for a Josh Oliver, who is quote unquote a blocking tight end, to run up the seam and catch a touchdown pass on first down. And, as a former defensive player, I know how frustrating that is when, all right, this team is run the ball on first down. We got to, put the weight on the balls of our feet, and you got to stop whatever run they're going to give you. Even being creative in that first quarter, where I think it was Naylor on his first run of the season, getting some of those plays mixed in there, it just gives you a different flavor on first down and throughout the whole game. That, all right, they're gonna try to establish the run for 4 quarters, and then now we have to worry about a play action pass, in which they've already hit us on as well. It really just keeps the defense guessing the whole time. And I think that's the name of the game. It's not so much a chess match as it is, the simplified checkers game where, hey, fine. If you know that we're going to run on first down, okay, then stop it. We don't have just one run. We have 20 type of runs. So stop the one variety of run that we're going to throw at you this time. It'll keep everybody guessing and open up everything else in the passing game as well.
Yeah, I think that's the one thing that Ben Johnson knows and carried with him from Detroit as coordinator to Chicago. Now, again, to a certain extent, you have to play to the strengths of your team, and not every team has the same strengths. But I think you nailed this. The idea, you actually want them to not assume you're going to run or pass because you're so predictable either way. And you aren't afraid, as you say, this notion that, they brought the safeties down. We can't run now. Well, maybe sometimes discretion is a better form of valor. But sometimes if you're doing it right and you have people who are doing their job, you say, as you said, we're going to still hand the ball off enough, and we're going to wait until you prove you can stop us, whether you've brought the safeties down or not.
Well, let's go back a few years to one of the greatest running backs to ever play the game in Adrian Peterson. How many times did we hear, we don't care if you've got 8 or 9 guys in the box. We have Adrian Peterson, and we have a really good offensive line. And guess what? He can make us right. He was that type of player. And Adrian would even talk about how I invite a heavy box, because if you squeeze all those defenders down to within 4 or 5 yards, all I got to do is break 4 or 5 yards, and then I'm gone. I'm off to the races. There's nobody in the back end of the defense that's going to chase me down, because there's not so much layers to the defense now. Everything's been condensed down to the line of scrimmage. And I know that's sort of an exaggeration of what we're going to face. But that is the idea that, maybe it doesn't have to make sense on paper. if they bring a safety down in the box and they have an 8-man box or a heavy 9-man box, fine. All right, we trust our guys to be better than your guys, and for our running back to make one guy miss, and all of a sudden now it's out the gate and it's a splashy play. So I think sometimes, again, maybe this goes back to KOC talking about even for himself, to not overthink things.
Yeah.
Just go with the flow of the game, and if we're feeling it and our offensive line is mashing their defensive line, doesn't matter if they have 9 guys in the box. We can still run it with success.
I want to broaden it out real quick before we wrap things up with a look at the standings in the National Football League here through 13 games. I'm looking at the AFC, and in the East, New England is 11-2 with the best record. Buffalo still, more than lurking. They're at 9-4. Look at the AFC North. The Bengals are buried again and injury riddled, and it's Pittsburgh with a slight lead over Baltimore. AFC South is Jacksonville, 9-4. AFC West, it ain't Kansas City. It's Denver at 11-2. The Chargers, who play tonight, I think are 8-4. KC is effectively buried now at 6-7. So I guess the moral of the story for me is we're seeing, I don't know if we're seeing a complete changing of the balance of power, at least in the American Football Conference, but we are seeing some different teams than we're accustomed to seeing at the top of the standings, and now we're a good 13 weeks into this thing.
Yeah, and it's great. I mean, that's why we love the NFL. You never know. Look at what Houston's doing. I mean, Houston is, they're a few games away from getting something to consistently click on offense to pair up with that top-ranked defense. And all of a sudden now they might be the most formidable team in the league, because if you're asking Houston to go up to New England in cold weather with that defense, I might take Houston. It's like, all right. I mean, the way the Texans are playing, I mean, we all know that defense wins championships. Like, it doesn't all have to be done the same way. And I like kind of the parity at which we're at. Look, Denver's got a big test next week. I think they play a 3:00 game against the Packers. The Packers come into town. That's a great litmus test for both of those teams. Jacksonville sneakily is having a great season. I think 3 of their next 4 games are absolutely winnable. I think they might play Denver as well, but other than that, they've got a really easy remaining schedule, so they could finish with 12 wins this season. I think we all know that whoever comes out of the AFC North, it's not going to be a factor. None of those teams are very strong. I think it's going to come down to a really balanced offense that is Jacksonville, a great defense in Houston, obviously the way that they're playing ball in New England, and let's just see how the Broncos do. Like I said this weekend against a team that we're very familiar with.
Who is the best team in the National Football Conference?
I would hate to say Green Bay, but they're up there, and I might take them right now over anybody.
Even the Rams?
Recency bias.
Yep.
I do love the Rams, but there's sort of something a little more magical, I think, that they have going on in Green Bay. I think that they're probably better suited to play in the playoffs if they have to play outside. Now, they might not have to if they don't hold that number 1 seed, and you might have to go to L.A. But if you're looking at like a tougher playoff caliber, late December, early January sort of team, I think the Packers are probably better suited for that environment.
We appreciate you, and we will chat next week. Thanks, man.
All right. Thank you, man. See ya.
That's Nacho. Ben Leber probably had more to get to with him, but we got another guest coming up. In fact, a current member of the Minnesota Vikings, Blake Cashman, is scheduled to join us next. We got more Vikings talking points to get to. We got some college football controversies to discuss, and so much more. Stay tuned. 64686. That is the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. We expect a call fairly soon, I should say, from the Vikings with Blake Cashman scheduled to join us. A lot of good texts have come in, though, in the last hour or so, which I'm trying to isolate and save. We have several more Vikings talking points to discuss on this program. I didn't ask Leber. Somebody wanted me to ask Leber what he thought of the hit on Ertz, whether it was a clean play or any different from the hit that hurt Hawkinson a few years ago. Is there controversy on that play? I don't remember.
I think a little bit. I heard Bursich talking about it with PA today, and his response was, what's he supposed to do?
Yeah.
He's got to go up and get the guy. Can he really hit him higher? Don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm sure when it's obvious it's a season ender like it was, and that was tough video, right? Ertz is crying on the cart.
It wasn't easy. No.
Mariota's over there. It's tough. But Bursich's point was, I wish people could understand how actually fast all this stuff is going.
Yes.
And the decisions you have to make and how you go about things. And his contention was, what was he supposed to do?
This is an interesting text worthy of discussion. Football is a fun game to dissect, play calls and game plans, but it often comes down to execution. Yesterday, the offense executed, scoring touchdowns the first two drives. This allowed the defense to be more aggressive and allowed the offense to dictate and run and pass when they wanted to. We call it in the business complementary football. Too often this year, they haven't executed, have fallen behind, and everything gets more difficult. Success breeds success, failure breeds failure. Taking the ball after winning the coin toss, something I'm usually against, turned out to be a good move. There's some merit to this in that we do tend to get hung up in is he running too much? Is he passing too much? Is he simplifying it enough? Is he oversimplifying it? Is he making it too complicated? And all those things are fair game. But a lot of it is simply, did you make the play? Did the players who were ordered to make certain plays or certain moves on this given play, did they do what they were supposed to do? And sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. And sometimes when they don't in spectacular fashion, it makes the play itself look dumber than it really is. There is some truth to that. I mean, to an extent, that goes back to McCarthy's his accuracy issues. As I've talked about for weeks, I might want the head coach to run more, but if the quarterback is going to be as inaccurate as he is and wild as he has been, it renders a lot of the stuff about run versus pass almost moot. Yesterday, he was accurate. Now, you could say they ordered him to make easier throws, or they called for easier throws, and that is how this all works together. That's how coaching and coaching can help give you a better chance to execute on that basis. But I think there was only one pass I remember that was well over the head of a receiver. It was to the right side. I can't remember who it was.
Addison.
Over. Was Addison?
Was that when he got hit, too? Breeze,
yeah,
Breeze tried to give him the alibi there.
That's true.
Which may have been part of it.
Well, the funniest thing, too, from Breeze, being Mr. Competitive, he's saying in the fourth quarter, Washington's going to have to open it up and really, they're way behind. They're going to have to throw the ball. And I think the next four plays they ran it, which told me that they just, like I said, they wanted to get the hell out of Dodge. They were no longer really actively participating in the ball game. Anthony Edwards is scheduled to play tonight. Originally, I guess he was listed as questionable.
He's got some illness going.
And I don't know what it is, but he is going to go. And I think Shannon also originally was listed as questionable, or has been upgraded. He's going to play, correct?
Yes, that's what I think I saw earlier.
The rotation, I don't even know. There's not any consistency with him in the rotation right now, is there?
Not really. Doesn't seem like it.
I don't think we're playing him as often as we thought we would be at this point, which doesn't mean he can't end up being in the rotation, but I don't.
And he's had some injuries,
He has had
right?
some injuries. That's true, too.
Which was part of it. They sat him down for a little while.
That's very, very true, Davey.
Cashman will be calling momentarily as the update, so feel free to keep going with whatever.
Have we talked about the fact that our entire offense was healthy? I'm not playing that card. I'm not playing that game. I heard it again about Washington, if this is accurate, during the TV broadcast. They've largely been going without their two best cover corners, two best, and their two best edge rushers. So, the idea that then you got an easy alibi for now it's good because we're healthier, I put it more on we are healthier, but we're also, I think, executing better. It works together, and I don't want to go too far down the sympathy card in that regard because every team I look at, they're talking about the Bears. They haven't even had this entire season I think they've, on average, had 4 to 5 regulars out every week. Different players, different weeks, but nobody cares. It's not like that's going to be, it's not going to be a loss against Green Bay. They still lost the game to Green Bay. And in fact, their best cover guy is Jalen Johnson. I think he started the game and got hurt again. Another one of their defensive backs got hurt in practice in pregame. So, the whine-a-thon we want to do, we're obsessed with the injuries here because this is a team we follow. So if we spend as much time obsessing over the injuries on other teams, we'd find out, well, they all have their crosses to bear. It's all, in fact, well, our next guest missed a month, didn't he, with a hammy?
Yeah.
Which is not helpful to the club either.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Given how much of a tackle machine that he can be. So, I'm sure maybe we'll talk about some of that with him. I just don't think, is it help to be healthy? Yes, but the game of football, professional football, is a game of attrition. And quite frankly, every year, it's not about who's healthiest. It's often about which team that has had injuries copes with those injuries better than others. That's, to me, a large part of it. Now, if it's your quarterback and you've missed your starting quarterback's out for the entire season or 10 games, yeah, I get that. Then because of the position, the importance of the position, that's very, very different. Where were we here? Let me see if I can get a couple more quick ones in. Oh, well, while we're waiting.
If there's a talking point, you could get to that as well.
Yeah, we could do that too. But in the meantime, there's a lot of talk about whether Notre Dame got screwed, and because the Fighting Irish did not get named to the postseason tournament. I think the team that's bugging me more than Notre Dame, one way or the other, is Alabama. I guess I can understand the argument. How can you can't leave them out? But they had 3 losses.
Yeah,
their third loss, they weren't even competitive in the conference title game. And what also bugs me is that they paid, it appears, week to week, almost no penalty in getting killed by not even competitive in the SEC championship game. So I'm actually, that's the team. I wish there was more heat on Alabama. And the conspiracy theory is, well, there's too many people on the committee with SEC, biases. I don't know what the makeup of the committee is. But to me, I think Alabama should have been a little bit more vulnerable than they were. Or at least having them move down a bit.
Yeah, the problem is, there's a million problems. First of all, I think when you're arguing over the last team or two to get in 12, we do this every year.
We need 16.
Well, which they're going to have.
Yeah,
they're going to have 16.
Then we're going to need 24.
Probably 24, and then 48, and then every game's going to be a playoff game. We're just going to start in August, and everybody's going to play. I think, by and large, this thing has worked out pretty well through 2 years.
Yes.
And when you factor in, you've got some of the non-group of 5 schools, a group of 4 schools, like JMU and like Tulane, like you're going to leave out a blue blood one way or the other at some point, right? There's a million different problems because the argument for Alabama's third loss is how can you penalize them for making the SEC championship game and having to play? But it looks like they did do that with BYU because BYU got crushed.
That's right.
So whichever side of the argument you want to go on, there's an easy counterpoint. I think that's the problem.
That's the whole problem. Yeah.
It's an imperfect situation that's probably closer to a true champion than we've ever had. Remember, it used to be when you were covering the Bulldogs in 1980, I think you just voted, right?
Yeah, that's
everybody
true.
just played.
It was a mythical title then.
And then they did 2, and then they did 4, and now obviously they're up to 12, and it looks like there's a lot of momentum for 16. And if the SEC and Big Ten had their way, it'd be 35, and we'd be having wild card weekend right now with Iowa playing Michigan, to get into the Big Ten. So I feel like they are going to expand it. I think at some point they're going to get rid of conference championship games.
Yeah, they probably are.
There's too many moving parts with that. Do you penalize them? Do you not? How can a team that didn't play, how can their seeding be impacted at all? It's complicated, but I never really feel badly for anybody in these situations.
Speaking of 1980, when Georgia played Notre Dame in the mythical national championship game, which I covered at the Sugar Bowl, I'm going through some old stuff, old clips. I find the game story I write right off of that game. And I guess I'd forgotten this. Georgia completed 1 pass in that game and won. It just shows you what a different world we're living in. The University of Georgia, when the so-called national championship game with their quarterback, Buck Bellew, who's been a guest on this show, completing 1 pass, I think for 7 yards. And they still won the game. They were completely outgained in that game, by the way.
Yeah.
It was the old outplayed, but then Notre Dame made a couple of mistakes. But that's 1980, so that's a long time ago, but that seems to strain credulity. Is it fair to say nobody is going to win a national championship this year if they're only able to complete one pass?
It would be unlikely.
Yeah, that's what I thought. All right, phone I think is ringing, so I think we're going to get Blake Cashman here in a minute, and then we'll get to maybe even more reaction regarding who's in and who's out and whether my Indiana Hoosiers got a good draw or not as the alleged number 1 overall seed, for sure. So the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is available to each and every one of you at 64686. They punished BYU this year for playing the championship game. I think that's exactly the point that Gardsey was just making. Blake Cashman, in fact, has indeed checked in via the Connecticut Water Systems hotline. Blake, thank you very much for the time. We appreciate you giving us a minute or two. Let me get to the most important stuff off the top, because we were just talking about the college football playoff. Did Notre Dame get screwed?
I think so. I mean, I haven't been keeping as close of an eye as I normally do on college football this year and how the playoff picture was shaking out. But, you're talking about a program that, because they started off, if I believe, 0-2, and they've won 10 straight.
Correct.
They're a very hot team right now, a team with, obviously a lot of winning and tradition. So you would think that would be a team that the committee would want to see in the playoffs.
Do you like the whole playoff system? Would you like to see it tweaked? Do we need more teams? And, how far can you go with this thing?
Ooh, that's a tough question. I do like the playoff picture. I think it gives, other schools an opportunity to compete for the title that normally wouldn't. Mm-hmm. So I really love that aspect of it. But, I've already heard rumors or talks about, should they continue to keep expanding it? And I think where it's at right now is, good enough, if you ask me.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Although I think it's inevitable. It's probably going to get a little bit better. It's just too much money in it. I think that's a big, very, very big part of it. Let's talk about your club yesterday and let's back up a little bit and let's talk about even the feel going into yesterday's game. Because the week before, certainly the game before, it could not have been very much fun. I don't think. You're used to winning. This program is used to winning. And you find yourself, going into that game yesterday, 12 games in a position of being 4-8. So give me a sense of how, as a competitive player, obviously, on a competitive team, how you process that, how you get to that place where you're not feeling sorry for yourself or you're not saying, God, this season has kind of gotten away from us.
Well, an easy, quick answer would be a lot of self-talk. But for real, just continuing to, plug away and show up and put your best foot forward and go to work. I think we have great coaches, great locker room, great staff. So you just continue to, lean on the people that, you trust, and, we're all in it together. And, that's how you keep a focused mindset. But, it is frustrating. It's obviously we see the frustration, for our fans and whatnot. But nobody's more frustrated than us, when we're sitting at where we're at. But at the end of the day, we're professionals and we have a job to do. And you have to go out every week with a high level of preparation and focus with the goal to win. And that's why we work so hard. That's why we put the time that we do into this game, and that's why we're compensated the way we're compensated.
Well, you guys certainly did follow through yesterday, I think, both offensively and defensively. And I was talking with Ben Leber earlier about this, to me, being one of those games where it looked to me as if, look, your whole game is a pressure game defensively. Obviously, that's the B-flow game, and selectively using those pressures at the right time. And I felt this looked like one of those games where Washington was not prepared for it, or if they were, they didn't know what the hell to do about it. I mean, people are going through, lining up at the line of scrimmage, and they're not being taken care of. There's no adjustment being made. It didn't look like from the pattern. So it appeared to me that it was a combo platter of great scheme, in this case, right calls being made, and then you guys executing. What did you see?
Well, you said it perfectly. It definitely helps when we start getting like a 2-score lead.
Yeah.
Because we can really lay it on our opponent.
Great point.
And continue to cause that, stress and frustration because of all the different looks and, pressure looks that we'll give teams. But that's how you get to those positions, is playing complementary football, getting, the ball to your offense. And our offense did a great job at, capitalizing off takeaways, off, a short field. They started fast. So when all those things come together like that, it's just a recipe for success. But, we do a really good job at, showing the same look, but then, bringing pressure, throwing in a tricky 2 coverage, throwing in a tricky 3 coverage, bringing outside pressure, bringing interior pressure, all based off the same look. And we call that, our presentations. Every week, Flo, our other defensive coaches, they're talking about our presentations have to be good on early down and on, second long and third down situation, because you want to continue to play that game of cat and mouse with your opponent and whoever's under center.
Well, what's weird to me is the game, you can lose sight of some aspects of the game just on the basis of a final score. The Seattle game, you guys lose 26-0. And you could say, well, given it, yielding 26 points isn't necessarily a great day defensively, but that was also a game where there were a lot of interceptions, and that enters into it. And I felt like the defense in that game had Darnold, you're a guy you guys know well, obviously, Darnold on his heels a little bit as well, and that it speaks to your point. It looks different or plays differently because you're not getting anything going offensively where you can maybe even be more aggressive. But I thought you guys certainly played a representative game defensively against Seattle. How did you feel about that?
Yeah, I think we did too. Really, I think majority of the season, give or take a couple games, for majority of those football games, we've played pretty good defense, and I think even the stats and data would back that up. But the one thing, if you just want to focus on the defensive side of the ball that's been missing this year, has been the takeaways.
That's true.
And we were very disruptive and getting takeaways last year. We haven't been able to attain those goals this year. And, when we're not taking the ball away, that's just giving the offense, your offensive opponent more opportunities, and it's keeping your own offense on the sideline. So against Washington, we were able to take the ball away, and it was a beautiful thing where our offense was able to capitalize when we did, and that's why we were able to run away with that game.
No question about that. You missed, was it a month or a month and change, right? With the muscle pull. Hammy, I believe.
4 games, yeah.
So 4 games, okay. So how tell me, looking back on that, what's that whole process like? You're like most players, or all players, I guess you want to play, and I feel like it's the kind of injury you can't rush, or you could end up making things worse. What's that whole process, and how separated from the team does any player feel when they're out for that amount of time?
When you go on IR, you're on somewhat of a different schedule as the rest of the team, because your main focus is to get healthy, get your body, and be ready to go, right away when you come off IR to, help your football team win games. But, as somebody that's, when I am on the field, the green dot and being a linebacker, I'm still in meetings as much as I can be, and studying the game plan, because just because I'm not playing, I can help the guys that are having to take on a new role or a bigger role So, you want to, like I said earlier, continue to be a professional, and, add value where you can, to the football team. But, missing games is very frustrating. As players, we put in a lot of time and effort, and, we always say, they pay us to practice, not play, because we love game day. That's where that inner spirit of when you're, a child playing this game and where you first found the love, you start feeling those feelings every Sunday, because of the love and passion we have for it. But, you're right. With any soft tissue injury, you have to be very diligent about, your recovery and rehab process, because, if you're not careful, those are the type of injuries that can linger and, easy to re-aggravate as the season goes on, and that's not good for you. That's not good for the football team.
Blake Cashman kind of to join us. There's a couple more things with him. Harrison Smith gets another interception yesterday, and what struck me was the conversations he had with the reporters in the locker room. Very emotional, and he's gotten, I feel like, more that way. It's almost as if he knows he's closer to the end than the beginning, and that's sort of setting in with him. That's kind of hitting him. What are your observations on obviously an all-time Vikings great and the way he sort of dealing with things these days?
I think he handles, or at least in my 2 years now playing with him, he handles everything as you would expect a future Hall of Famer to handle things, whether it be a lot of success or failures. But he's a guy that he's a face and leader of this football team, a guy with a lot of experience and knowledge of the game. And so, especially when times get tough, a lot of players in our locker room, even coaches, lean on him and want to get his opinion, his 2 cents on things, because he is such an important piece of this football team. And I think, with his, like you said, the possibility of, his playing days coming to an end, he's trying to, not take a moment for granted, because as football players, we always talk about, that bond, the camaraderie you have, in the locker room. You can never replicate that anywhere else. And, those are the moments you're going to, look back on and miss the most. So, he just continues to embrace every moment, enjoy his time with us and the coaches, and continues to put his best foot forward, no matter what our win-loss columns look like.
I think you're 29 years old. I assume that's still too young to think about your football mortality, or is it?
I like to think I age like fine wine, but yeah, the reality of it though is, I probably got less football ahead than I do behind me, but I just take every week and every season as a blessing, and so appreciative I get to still play this game and have this job at my age, and you can't lose sight of that, and that's something that guys like myself you have to keep doing that self-talk when things get tough, because at the end of the day, it sucks where we're at. We expected to be in the playoff picture right now, but I still get to wake up every day and go play football for a job, and that's what I've always wanted. That's what I want to continue to do. So I just have a lot of great appreciation for it.
Very well said. We appreciate the time, and good luck the rest of this season. Thanks again, Blake.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Blake Cashman, Vikings linebacker, kind enough to join us on a Monday afternoon. Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line is, it's going pretty steadily right now. A lot of good stuff. Some of it related to college football and the playoffs and who's in and who's not. Some reacting to the Vikings victory. The Monday night game tonight, I believe, is Eagles-Chargers, correct?
Yeah, we picked that one on Friday, didn't we?
I think we did.
That was part of the pick'em segment. Is Herbert playing? Do we know?
I believe he is.
Okay.
I believe I don't know if it's been officially announced. But when I've been watching him on the field, it certainly looks like he's giving it a go. But who knows?
You can't miss him. That beautiful hair.
I don't know if there's that's true. A final reading on that. I'm not exactly sure. It's a game I'm assuming we won't have on the fan because we got wild hockey.
We will until about 8:45.
Okay, then we switch off.
And you saw me in the score a little bit earlier.
Yes.
I was cutting a liner, as we say in the business, to tell people that thank you for listening to Monday Night Football right here on the Fan. You can follow it on KFAN Plus 96.7.
I see.
Now here's Kevin Falness with Wild Kraken.
Even better. Short pregame show again for Falness, I assume, like
15
always?
minutes probably.
Yeah, 15 minutes. Why would it ever be 30?
Get there.
My favorite was 1966. Michigan State and Notre Dame were co-champions after their 10-10 tie. Nothing wrong with a tie sometimes. Well, I don't think they ended up being co-champions because I believe later that season, and again, that was all ratings back in those days. I believe that season, at least one of the rating services, I don't know if it was AP or the coaches, picked Notre Dame because they finished the season, I want to say, crushing USC like 51-0. And this was when USC was good. And I think one of them ended up picking Notre Dame. Am I wrong?
The final coaches poll had Notre Dame number one.
That's it, yeah.
Michigan State number two.
And then I don't know about the other one. Maybe the other one didn't, but that not only is a game we've talked about before, we've had a guest in studio who played in that game. The great Alan Page participated in 10-10. And
still one of the craziest stories.
And I'm still angrier with the tie and his coach settling for a tie than he is.
That's what's crazy about it. But that's why he's Alan Page, and we're not.
And we're not. That's exactly it.
We're bothered, and he said, well, that's what the coach wanted to do. And
we
were fine with it.
There was a gamble to not doing it that way. And what if we'd have lost 13-10, Dan?
By the way, Notre Dame did not participate in bowl games from 1925 through 1968, according to this Wikipedia.
I don't even remember that.
I'm assuming it was academics. Remember?
Oh,
Remember, Ohio State turned down a Rose Bowl one time because the professors, the school said, no, we're not doing that.
Think about it.
Think about it now.
Think about it.
Right? That's how it used to be. So what they're doing now, basically taking their ball and saying, we're not playing in the Pop-Tart Bowl, which was the bowl they were going to go
to.
The Pop-Tart Bowl. Did you see their AD on Dan Patrick today?
No.
Wetzel tweeted it because it's such a great Wetzel line. But it's a direct quote from the AD. Nothing against Pop-Tarts. How stupid college football is. Nothing against Pop-Tarts, but we're not doing the game.
You know what was on Turner Classic Movies just within the last 3 or 4 days? Knute Rockne.
Oh, yeah.
All-American. The famous film, black and white film going back a century probably. And it it did indicate a very different time in college football back in I think he coached in the 20s and 30s, didn't he? Knute? Sounds right. And he wasn't Newt, at least to his friends or his associates at Notre Dame. He was Knute.
I never knew that.
I don't know how he pronounced it. And you also know that he died in a plane crash?
I do think I knew that.
Knute Rockne, All-American, is a great movie. If you get bored. Featuring a young up-and-coming actor named Ronald Reagan.
Isn't that crazy?
Most of you know. All right, let's get caught up. We got some more Vikings talking points to discuss, and we'll get back to the college football controversy on who's in, who's out in the postseason.
There's nothing like live hockey. You can experience Minnesota Wild action at Grand Casino Arena all season long, including Wild versus Stars on December 11th and Wild versus Capitals on December 16th. Secure your tickets now at wild.com/tickets and join the excitement.
Dan Minnesota has retweeted a piece of film from 1966, and it's being shown now because it matches apparently Vikings Cowboys, a 1966 loss at the Cotton Bowl. But the video is remarkable in that it does, as it says via the account, Vike fans, we show people who are too young to have seen him what scrambling from Fran Tarkenton looked like. A remarkable 17.25 seconds before he completed the pass. And it is astonishing because he literally goes from one side of the backfield to the other side of the backfield, back to the other side of the backfield. And in fact, when he's rolling to the right, he cocks his arm like he's going to throw it, then brings the ball back to his body, goes all the way back across the field, before he actually throws the pass and it's a completion.
Where are we, America?
At the risk of making the PST, you know, the quarterback right now who reminds me the most of Tarkenton regarding escapability, and it's Caleb Williams. I see a little of Caleb Williams in him, and he showed some of that in the Green Bay game where he, even by modern, running quarterback standards, it was just absurd how he was getting out of sacks. And Tarkenton was a master at doing exactly that. Now, we talked about Sir Francis Sunday because did you hear about his comments during a WFAN interview?
No.
So I don't know if he was hawking something because this was in studio. I think it was with Boomer.
Okay.
And somehow
he probably was. That's what he does, which is fine. It's fair.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
But what was interesting was he was musing about he was the quarterback for 3 of the 4 Viking Super Bowl losses. And he was musing that one of the regrets he has is that Bud did not believe in any practicing in that dead week in between. The 2-week stretch between many end of the playoffs and Super Bowl.
Interesting.
Week 1, Fran is claiming Bud never practiced. The team never practiced. And he's trying to hold on to that as maybe a partial explanation for how badly the Vikings played in those Super Bowls. Now, what was really interesting was he also said that he was responsible. He was responsible for putting in the offense most weeks, but that he didn't put in the offense for any of those Super Bowl weeks because he was in Atlanta. Because the team was off. Now, there's a lot of questions to follow up to ask him, I would say, including, well, you didn't have to leave.
Exactly
couldn't you have stayed? And secondly,
with Burnsy, right?
How does the late great Jerry Burns feel about it? Is he turning over in his grave saying, wait a minute, I did have a lot to do with that offense too. So I don't know. Targeted had very poor numbers postseason in the Super Bowl. One of those he was allegedly hurt. His arm was not in good shape. But he did not have very good numbers. I think for the 3 games combined, he's like 1 touchdown, 6 picks. And his quarterback rating was J.J. McCarthy-like, to be honest with you.
Before yesterday.
Before it all turned. But, I do think it's a little weird to not practice at all.
Yes.
I will say that, although that was a long time ago, even though we know the Bud philosophy was less is more. But I also think that might be a little too simple an explanation all these decades later for explaining the team's difficulties in those games.
He talked with you about the offense that he and Burnsy put together. Yes. I do remember that vividly, that he at least tried to take partial credit at that point with Burnsy for what they did offensively and how they came up with it and how they developed it and how they nurtured it. So that's one of the mistakes I made. I'm not sure I ever asked Burnsy that question. How much did Fran have to do? We'd have to go back and listen. I wonder.
I don't think I bet you I never asked.
The last time we had Burnsy on was around the time that we had Fran on, so it may have come up.
Yeah, maybe it did. I don't know. I'm not even sure it ever came up with Bud on how. No. I know we talked about Fran, but I don't know that we ever talked about Fran in context of what was his offense.
Right.
I think about what a regret I have that because I would have loved to have heard both of their answers,
yes.
Bud's and Burns.
I can envision both of them in my head.
Yes.
Having a different version.
Yes, I think you're probably
than
right.
Fran. Yeah. The non-practicing thing is interesting because now, the whole cliche now is, and this is what I love about just sports and sports media, is that as time goes on, like right now, I'm going to say this tomorrow on Pair and a Spare. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite things about being a Heisman voter is this week, you have to say it's a requirement. You have to say, our votes were due on Monday. We're not allowed to say who we voted for until it's... you'll hear that 50 times this week. More than that. If you listen to any college football stuff, we can't tell you who we voted for. Okay, until it's out. Once it's out, then we're going to tell you. And we can tell you. Like, anybody cares. Right. Like, it's just my favorite little side thing. I can't tell you who I voted for.
Right.
But the Super Bowl coverage now, it's, well, the team is going to get most of their practicing done on site in the open week, because once you get to the Super Bowl
there's
city,
no practicing you can do.
It's madness. It's chaos.
Circus.
You're worried about family ticket.
Yes.
You got to make sure you get
that
your family stuff taken care of. But that's why what Fran said to me is interesting. That they had the off week, and that they, first of all, it does sound like Bud that they, he probably wanted to go ice fishing. That does sound right, but why would the players leave for an extended period of time?
I don't know.
That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. We need to do some check.
Well, a couple of people said we ought to check with Chuck Foreman, and we could. That's very true. It's not, but we haven't had Chuck on in a while.
You're right.
And Alan Page.
I'm laughing about all of the. I'm hearing all of their responses to all of this because we've had them on so long.
That's true. That might be kind of fun. We do have a little more. We got some more Vikings talking points to get to in our final half hour of the program. We'll also let you know what's coming up later tonight on the Fan. It's kind of a busy sports night, both locally for our local teams and nationally in the National Football League as well. So we'll keep you abreast there when we return. Maybe you had something.
I'm just listening.
Those pithy little announcements you have to make.
Once you hit the mic line, though, I see your mic's on, I lay out.
Okay.
I could tell you that you could experience world-class hockey in Minnesota.
I don't see why not.
The 2026 IIHF World Juniors showcase the future stars of the game in an unforgettable tournament, and you can secure your seats now at mnsportsandevents.org and be part of hockey history.
Justin Herbert is cleared and is scheduled to start for the Los Angeles Chargers of San Diego tonight, Monday Night Football in Los Angeles, right next to the fabulous Forum in Inglewood against the Philadelphia Eagles. There you have it. Chargers, a team I can't really get a handle on, and Eagles, and they're both
8-4, right?
Champions. Yeah, that's it. Might seem a little bit strange. Real quick, before we get to another talking point or two, did my Hoosiers receive a good draw? I think they have to play the winner of Alabama-Oklahoma, correct? I think that's who IU plays. Indiana gets a bye, and then I believe that's who they would play in their first game, second round of the tournament, but their first game in the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
By the way.
You got to go to that.
It's too much work, I think.
It's not work at all.
I love being in the Barca. You know me. Alabama, Alabama doesn't scare me, I don't think, but Bozich told me Oklahoma's defense is outstanding.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if I'm looking, seeing who else, I'd probably prefer the winner of Ole Miss and Tulane, which is who Georgia gets.
Is that true?
Yeah.
That's annoying. How'd that happen? Well, that's because of the way the rankings
Just
work.
how the rankings work out.
Yeah.
And if you recall, part of the reason why they changed it this year with the non-Power 4 conference champions, remember last year, like Boise State got a bye. I think Arizona State got a bye.
Yes.
They got rid of that because Oregon at the Rose Bowl had to play like 8-seed Ohio State first round after being the number one overall team. Yeah. So I would kind of say no, they didn't get a great draw given it's Miami, Texas A&M that will play Ohio State. I think that one's going to be in Dallas.
But you got to do what you got to do, I guess. Either you're good enough to handle it or you're not.
That's true.
At some point, there's some truth to that too. Although I might be whining a different story if they end up losing. But that part's 100% true. We got more Vikings talking points to discuss, including this one we like to call channeling KOC.
That'll be a gain of 2 yards. That'll make it 2nd and goal from the 2 for the Washington Commanders.
Well, you mentioned the success that the Commanders have had in the red zone, and that's just because of the running game, right? 3rd in the league going into this game, 6th on a per-play basis. Rodriguez averaging 10 yards a carry on this opening drive. It's no mystery what makes you better as a red zone offense when your run threat is true. They have an extra offensive lineman checked in at tight end, so probably another run right here.
That's Brandon Coleman to the left of left tackle Laramie Tunsil, 2nd and goal, offset eye right. Play action. Daniels floats out to the left. Now he's going to loop it and throw it into the tunnel out of the end zone, 3rd down.
Yeah, when you're averaging 8 yards a carry as Rodriguez to go ahead and throw the football. I mean, they tried to trick us. A great job by Byron Murphy Jr. just sniffing that thing out, and the pass to Brandon Coleman went incomplete.
3rd and goal for Washington from the 1. Jaden Daniels out of the shotgun. Rodriguez to his left. Daniels takes the snap on 3rd down. He'll roll out to the right, eyes in the end zone. He's encountered, and he throws it away. And now trailing 7-0 with 2:46 to go in the first quarter. The Commanders have it 4th and goal from the 1. 2 receivers left.
Run it!
Daniels empty backfield. 3 receivers right now. Takes the snap on 4th down. Bounces around. Fires to the end zone. Incomplete! Samuel, back center of the end zone, couldn't hold on to it. Joshua Metellus with excellent coverage, and the Vikings have turned over the Commanders on downs.
It's amazing. It really is uncanny how often these geniuses can outsmart themselves. And you heard it from Bursic, basically foreshadowing the whole thing. They're averaging 8 yards a carry. They got an extra tight end coming in. Run the ball. Look, again, you don't have to run it on every down. But don't you have to run it on one of those, if not 2 or 3 of those? And maybe it wouldn't have mattered because they really were not very competitive from that point forward. But any chance they had to be in the ball game, that was it. I mean, that was it. It's 7. Even Blake Cashman said, when you get up 14-0, we can play with our toys even more. And we
that was a good quote.
We can throw stuff around and we can be even more aggressive and we can, be a little bit more daring, try those things. I think there's a lot of truth to that, especially with the way Buffalo wants to play defense. So we'll never know if it would have changed at 7-7. It was uncanny to me.
That soliloquy that Bursic just had, I kept it all in there because I don't remember which game it was. He had the exact same soliloquy about Kevin O'Connell, about the Vikings at some point this season. It was one of the weeks where run the ball was a talking point. It could have been 3 or 4 of them. I remember doing that a lot. But it was the same thing. Like, we're running the ball. Let's get right up here. This is a running situation. Got another tight end. Let's go. And then PA says, McCarthy, back to pass. It's just, you can't make it up. He sets the whole thing up. Yeah. And Bursic obviously sees the game clearly, so I'm sure he's pleasantly stunned when Washington does that.
Yeah, it really did look like KOC. The old KOC was almost like, okay, well, if I can't call the game for my team the way I want to, let me at least call it for the other team the way I want to. And then I, might enjoy myself a little bit more. So we'll agree that even as it was happening, not after the fact, even as it was happening, you're going, really? Who was the big guy? Is it Rodriguez? I think that was his name. They had a big lummox of a running back who looked like a battering ram, for God's sake.
Yep.
And again, over the course of the game, he didn't stay as effective as he was early, but it's just a very bad look for Washington.
You know why, though? You know why they're doing it? Their offensive coordinator, 46-year-old.
Yes.
Great BMI.
Yes.
Cliff Kingsbury.
True. Yeah, you're right.
The BMI boys can't help themselves.
They can't help themselves.
He's the old Texas Tech, air raid, sling it all around quarterback, former head coach, Cardinals.
That's correct.
Like, they can't help themselves. No. The BMI boys love to sling it.
That's 100% true. We were talking with Cashman about Hitman, who got an interception. Read the play perfectly. Bad throw, but a great read as well.
It is 2nd and 9 for Washington. Mariota going out of the shotgun. Deebo Samuel in the backfield flexes out to the left. Mariota, he's going to throw to the left. Intercepted by Harrison Smith. And the Hitman turns it up to the 40, and he's taken down at the 36-yard line. That is the 38th interception in Harrison Smith's storied career, meaning he has passed Joey Browner for sole possession of 4th all-time in the annals of Minnesota Vikings history.
My sources say the place was not full, and it was clear on the basis of even watching from the Barca that the folks were kind of tired and bored and disinterested early.
Yeah.
It almost was, we're waiting to shower booze down upon you, and then they were like disappointed that they couldn't because the team was dominating.
Wait, we're
in this
playing
case.
well?
We're actually in good shape.
We're running the ball,
so
turnovers.
It didn't look like the atmosphere that we associate with Minnesota Vikings football.
And that makes sense.
It does make sense.
Right? I thought the atmosphere was appropriate for how the last month has gone.
Cheering can be hard, just like in the Vikings predictions. Yeah.
I can't imagine being super on fire to be at the game when you've got 4-8 versus 3-9. Right? That's not what you signed up for. That's not what anybody signed up
really
for.
Isn't. Yeah.
It's tough on everybody, so that makes a ton of sense.
Can you get the breaking news sounder, by the way? This is too good. If it's true, and it's on ESPN, so it must be.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I just saw a tweet about this.
The Indianapolis Colts will work out Phillip Rivers tomorrow. In the wake of the news that your guy, Daniel Jones, is out with an Achilles.
Another Achilles.
How old is Phillip Rivers, and how long has he been out of the game? Was he just out last year? Was that the only season? Or has it been out 2 years already?
I feel like it's 2. How many people do you think are Googling Phillip Rivers right now
Everybody.
for this very...
Last played in 2020, according to ESPN. Last played in the NFL 5 years ago. This is like a Jeff George kind of story, isn't it?
It is. He's only 44.
He's still got... he's got an arm.
Oh, yeah.
That's never been the issue with Phil Rivers.
No.
God, it's hard not to root for that story. Isn't
yes,
it? I mean,
it'd be great.
Even if it ends up being a disaster, it would add a little curiosity to the Colts, who seem to be a little bit in free fall at this point. We've got one more Vikings talking point to discuss, and one texter who says that I got it all wrong yet again regarding the number of people in the seats and the crowd enthusiasm. So we'll address all of that and that last talking point when we return.
Show wrap presented by American Pressure, commercial grade pressure washer since 1975.
It's the Bumper to Bumper Show Wrap.
This is an interesting theory being offered up by someone who said he was there. Pretty full, definitely not 100% full. Part of the reason the crowd, or at least I, wasn't into it early was because McCarthy wasn't very good from the get-go. Terrible throw to Addison right before the first TD. Then the TD was late and behind him, making it harder than it needed to be. So, yeah, it was great to get a TD and drive one, but it's becoming increasingly concerning for JJ as a fan, more concerned about next year than this year. And they call me negative.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell you. I thought he looked, especially compared to how he had looked, relatively sharp, precise. Like I said earlier, I would call it more of an adult quarterback performance, even if it wasn't particularly flashy and not perfect. But, I mean, what do I know? Do we have time for that last talking point?
Yeah. We've got about 6-7 minutes here.
It's under that classification of turnovers and takeaways, which we talked about with Blake Cashman, who acknowledged, one thing we haven't done enough of defensively this year is taking the ball away. And certainly the offense has given it away too much. And then the Commanders came to town.
4th and 3 from the Vikings 19. 3 receivers left and 1 to the right. Jalen Daniels clapping for the ball. 3 on the play clock. Gets it, throws left, that is. Picked off by Andrew Van Ginkel. And he goes steaming to the 50, to the 40, inside the 30. And that's where he's taken down. The Gink is on fire with his first interception this season. The 2nd and 9 for Washington. Mariota going out of the shotgun. Deebo Samuel in the backfield, flexes out to the left. Mariota, he's going to throw to the left. Intercepted by Harrison Smith. And the hitman turns it up to the 40, and he's taken down at the 36-yard line. That is the 38th interception in Harrison Smith's storied career, meaning he has passed Joey Browner for sole possession of 4th all-time in the annals of Minnesota Vikings history. Washington 3 of 9 on 3rd down. McNichols in the game as the back with that nice pass protection, and Marcus Mariota goes out of the shotgun. It's a 4-man rush. The veteran sprints out to the right, outside the numbers. He pumps, and it turns it up at the 20. Ball popped out, but is it a recovered fumble by Javon Hargrave? Yes, it is. Javon Hargrave recovered a fumble. The Vikings are +3 in the take-give. And they're doing all of that with a 31-0 lead, middle of the 4th quarter.
It's a simpler game, isn't it? We all know that. When you're up 0-3 or 3-0 in the takeaway turnover department, as opposed to being down 0-3. I just happened to notice next to the talking points, might have been one of my favorite tsunamis of all time. Was that last year?
It had to have been.
Tsunami potato cake.
They're back. They're still around. I had some last week.
I think we needed that inspiration to get back in the tsunami mode. We missed one already that was at least callable. And I think if we're going to get... I guess the question is whether they're going to get enough snow any of these days that it'll amount to an amount that will make it, I guess, justifiable to name a tsunami. Because we need one, don't we?
Yeah, and tonight the snow is less than half an inch accumulation possible. Same thing tomorrow. One to 3 maybe tomorrow.
Oh, all right.
And then 1 to 2 for tomorrow night. So tomorrow we could do it.
It may end up being enough to where we can have some fun with that for sure. Hitman looked like he felt bad he had to intercept that. Washington looked so disinterested at that point that he was almost sheepish.
Well, so Drew Brees was trying to explain where Mariota was going.
Yes.
I don't think Drew Brees was correct. I don't think he knew. He's like, he was looking for the deep curl or whatever.
Yeah, right.
There was nobody there.
There was nobody there that I could see.
There was nobody in the vicinity, I don't think. That's how bad of a throw it was.
Well,
but you got to take them. You got to catch the ones that they throw to you.
That's also true, which we haven't always been very good at doing. I want to thank an outstanding array of guests today that included John Athletic at 3:30. If you like to podcast the show later, Ben Leber, usual time 4:47, and Blake Cashman, Vikings linebacker, joined us. Had a nice conversation with him at about 5:15 today. Tomorrow is usually a Luigi day, but Louis is going to join us this week on Wednesday. So tomorrow, right now, we have Kevin Seifert and working on a couple of other possibilities as well on the Tuesday show. I also want to give you some programming reminders for tonight on the Fan. Once we wrap up in a matter of minutes here, Vikings Rewind will follow as is usual. And then you'll hear the start of Monday Night Football on the flagship, and that is Chargers hosting the Philadelphia Eagles. Then there will be an abrupt departure for Wild versus Kraken tonight. And you think it's a 15-minute pregame show?
Yes, 8:45.
What time is that, 8:45? Mm-hmm. And in addition, don't forget that if you're interested in the Wolves tonight, they're hosting the Phoenix Suns, and Anthony Edwards is slated to play. Somebody, will you double? Well, it might not be enough time yet that Phoenix might be down a player or two. We'll double check that if we have time.
They are out, Devin Booker.
Booker is out.
Yeah,
okay.
Booker has a right groin strain.
That's rather large. But, of course, we've been there before where then we've relaxed for whatever reason.
Right.
That game will be available to you tonight via the Timberwolves channel. That's via the iHeart Radio app. So you can listen to whatever you want. You just have to have the app and hit the presets, and you're going to be all set for tonight.
We went to the game Saturday. Oh, good for us. And
that was the Wally Duck game?
The Wally Duck game. Mm-hmm. He was there. He did not appear too interested in throwing out the T-shirts.
Oh, really?
He threw a couple, and then he was bored with it.
Yeah.
Huddy was there, too. Troy Hudson. He was sitting next to Wally.
Hud was there?
Yep, he was there. But it was Wally's night. He signed autographs a couple of different times. But we got into our car, and I turned on the fan.
Yeah.
And it must have been Wild or something. Had a Wild game later, and I said, "Where's the Wolves game?" I thought, because I want to hear Horton's post game, and I want to hear Finchy.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
And I sat there while we were waiting to get out, and I fired up the Timberwolves channel on my iHeart Radio
Very
app.
easy.
And the Wolves channel's a preset.
You don't have to worry about signal, strength, or any of that stuff.
Just banged it out right there.
Yeah.
Listen to Horton's 3 factors.
I mean, you have to have internet.
Yeah, you got to have a cell service.
Or you have to have, Bluetooth via your car. Whatever, however you get your... However you consume
your content.
It's all about consuming. I don't know why.
It's all about content and consuming.
I don't know. I just
and verticals.
It sounds better. I prefer.
The industry's obsessed with it.
Watching or listening or whatever the case may be. But I guess that's the way it necessarily has to be. So I've got, I think, an outside shot at either Mitch Lawrence tomorrow or Sam Mitchell tomorrow. We haven't had Sam on at all, I think, since the start of the season. So that would be my goal. We have had Mitch on, I think, once before. And but if Sam's not available, we may go to Mitch, and a couple of other things up our sleeve as well. Might even put in a request for your guy and my guy Lou Ragoose, who's lately been offering up some interesting videos. We played one of them. But there was another one today where he's, I think, kind of attempting to counter
clap back
media narrative elsewhere via the Star Tribune, my former newspaper. So Maybe we'll put Ragoose into the mix as well, if at all possible, based on his schedule. We appreciate your participation in today's program, and we hope that you'll join us again when we recommence, start the whole thing all over again, beginning at 3 o'clock.
Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your vision, for your spirituality, for healing me. Mostly, though, Dan, thank you for my life.